Hey everyone, welcome to the Fandom Stranger Show. I just wanted to make kind of a quick video here, because I went and saw Hellboy on Sunday, and I wanted to do a quick review here, but every time I think about this movie, it's, wow. So there's probably a lot of really, really bad reviews out there, and, yeah, it deserves that. It's not a good movie, and it's not a great movie. It's probably the best bad movie you might see, or at least that's what it is for me. It was an enjoyable movie, and it was crazy, and it just wasn't good. Like, it was not a good movie at all. Shazam was a good movie. I'm trying to think if there's any other good movies out there right now. Not Captain Marvel. That sucked. I tried watching a bootleg copy of Captain Marvel. I got about 25 minutes in and turned it off and didn't bother to finish watching it. I was just, it was so boring. I didn't care. But Shazam was a really good movie. But Hellboy, wow, that was really unique. So when I was watching it, I wasn't too thrilled, and I'd come to realize, because on the Daily Comics Nexus Facebook page, I'd put down that the sound editing was really, really bad, because you could hear the music over the words a lot of the time. It turns out that the theater that we were in, the speakers, some of the speakers blew, and that's why we were having issues with it. So my buddy and I were gonna go back and rewatch it this weekend again, just to, make sure we get the full experience. Overall, there was groan-worthy things in that movie that I just was like, oh, come on. Like, I'm kind of like checking my phone to see the time, like it just wasn't all that great. Sorry, it's kind of cold out here, getting a lot of moisture from my breathing. It was not that good. But when the movie ended, I definitely did find myself still enjoying what I saw. And that's really hard to say, because I know there's a lot of people that just that say it was grotesque and it was awful and was it banal, and I have my complaints for sure. If you're going to compare it with other movies that are coming out, it's not going to... It doesn't fare that well. Alright, number one, it's not. This is definitely a movie that's, like, you kind of need to see for yourself. I would say that if you liked the Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider movies, most particularly Spirit of Vengeance, if you liked that one, or 300, you might like this movie. The biggest problem that I've seen so far with all of the movie reviews, is that they all say it's a superhero movie. This is not a superhero movie, guys. It's a horror movie. It's a monster versus monster horror movie. It's not superhero. And that's the problem that everyone has, because I've seen so many people try to compare this to Captain Marvel or Shazam, and it's like, okay, they're comic book movies, and yes, you can relate them, but it's not a superhero movie. This is something more like you can compare to, Godzilla movies, or trying to think of other ones like Jason versus Freddy or whatever. I mean, granted, that movie kind of sucked, but but it's something along that vein. And in that department, it actually does pretty well. The action scenes are okay. Hellboy wrestles a vampire luchador in the very beginning. It's really cheesy, but it is a very Hellboy thing to do. He fights 3 giants, which was okay, kind of cartoony, but it was good. It was still fun. It was still fun to watch. And then he fights a giant boar monster, and every time I go to talk about this character, I always forget his name. I just got done looking it up before I started recording, and just now I forgot what his name was. Oh, this kills me every time. But he fights him near the end, and that was pretty cool. There's but the worst action sequence is near the end. It seemed like it was like, I don't know, it just seemed like they were using a different camera, and it was like they were trying to do like all one shot, no clipping, and it didn't really work out very well. It just seemed like they were using like a different roll of film or a different camera, and it just wasn't pleasant. It wasn't a very pleasant experience. The CGI in it was it was hit and miss. The worst CGI is whenever Alice is trying to harness a ghost. It does like this weird morbid genie where sort of like a Haunting in Connecticut. If you can think of the cover of the Haunting of Connecticut where the kid's got his mouth open and it's like, oh, the stuff's coming out of his mouth. It's like that, but it's like this weird umbilical cord that attaches to like a demented genie that has some of the worst clipped CGI. It's like the body looks crap, but they kind of like, they filmed the actor's face and then just kind of like imposed it onto a CGI body, and it looked like garbage. Really looked like garbage. It really looked like garbage. Oh my gosh, and the Ian McShane one was the worst. That was the most egregious one in the entire film. That looked so stupid. But the rest of the CGI was actually pretty on point. You know, you get into the fire effects when Hellboy gets a hold of the sword near the end. Okay, so I'm gonna get into a little bit of spoilers. So if you don't want any spoilers, go ahead and just stop right there. Well, let me give you a real quick thing. Definitely see it for yourself. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I acknowledge that it's a bad movie. Okay. But for spoilers, I'm going to count it down. 3, 2, and 1. So Hellboy gets a hold of Excalibur, and that's what the flaming sword is. So he's officially now the King of England, and some of the effects from that is pretty cool. Some of the scenes that I really, really liked. Now there was a really great establishing scene that really stuck with me, and that's when Damio, Hellboy, and Alice are going to Pendle Hill. That was one of my favorite scenes because I loved, number one, I like Alice Cooper, but it was really, really well done how they overlaid Welcome to My Nightmare over the helicopter scene. Okay, that was a really, really well done scene. That was really, really, really well done. The fight in the forest was kind of cheesy. It reminded me of House of the Dead, the old Uwe Boll movie, if you've ever seen that, where they fight a bunch of dollar store zombie costumes in a cavern, and you've seen that costume hanging at your local Target, Meijer, Walmart, Halloween store. You've seen it, and the actors have to fight that thing. Yeah, it was pretty. They had a scene that was very similar to that. That was kind of that seemed kind of pathetic. But the rest of the movie was pretty fun. The other big thing. Now I've said it since the moment he was announced as a cast. But Ian McShane as Professor Broom was the worst choice ever. It was just terrible, and it was a stinker on the screen watching him. All they did was they copy, cut, and pasted his Deadwood character into this movie. He's they have Professor Broom cussing and swearing. He's cussing people out. He's cussing out Hellboy. He's just being this gruff jerk, and it was so grating. Because when you think about John Hurt's performance that really nailed the character, it was a huge disappointment that they didn't bring that to this movie too. One of the things I was I'm sick and tired of seeing is that they treat Hellboy like he's a 10-year-old kid, despite him being 50, 60, 70, depending on whichever movies you're watching. You know, I think now he's about 76, I think is what I determined it to be. If you have him being born in 1944. Yeah, so he's about 75 years old. But he's being talked to like he's 15 years old. You know? So that relationship aspect it's old. And it was old when they did it with Ron Perlman. It just kind of wasn't... It was kind of ill-fitted. And this movie made it even worse. Like, they made Hellboy kind of like all the worst aspects of a young millennial, you know, bitching and griping around with his parent. And it was awful. But Hellboy himself was fine, you know. I mean, they kind of made him a little bit of an alcoholic, which is, you know, whatever, it's fine. Whatever, not that big of a deal, but nevertheless, though, it just, the whole parent-child relationship between that just sucked. I would like to see, if they reboot the reboot, and try again, I would like to see them actually have a real to heart relationship between Hellboy and Professor Broom, where Hellboy does care about his father and his father does care about him, and it's a loving relationship, and it's not that Hellboy is this immature child, but he is actually an adult in this film. Like, he actually is an adult, and he cares about his father because he knows that his father's life is almost at an end, and that's why he takes care of him, and that's why he cares about him. And one of the reasons why he honors his father with the hunting and for BPRD, something like that. Now that would be perfect. That's what I'm looking for, but they don't have that so far in any of the films, which is very disappointing. So one of my favorite parts, definitely one of my favorite parts, is Thomas Hayden Church's Lobster Johnson. Oh man, I want a Lobster Johnson movie so bad. Thomas Hayden Church's Lobster Johnson was just an absolute inspired choice. Gosh, he looks like... Because it's like, you know, Thomas Hayden Church, he just has that, like, craggy kind of face. And if you ever look at the cover of a Lobster Johnson comic, he has that face, and it's just... it's just perfect. It's absolutely perfect. And he is a good choice for that role. Because Bruce Campbell was a fine... He would have been a fine choice, but they're both kind of up there in age. But Thomas Hayden Church, I think, just brings it a little bit better as an actor anyway. Especially if he's going to be a little bit, I don't want to say cocky, but sure of himself. I think Thomas Hayden Church does a far better job in doing that kind of role and bringing a little bit more of a gravitas to it. But that was really fun. Make sure that you stay behind through all the credits, because there are more after credit scenes. There's a scene as soon as the credits are done rolling. There's a scene, and there's a scene in the middle of the credits. So yeah, make sure that you sit through all of it if you do. Some of my favorite scenes, now the horror scenes really, really shine, and the horror scenes that shine for me the most are the Baba Yaga scenes, particularly the one where Hellboy actually goes to see Baba Yaga. It's really an unnerving scene. It's fantastic. I mean, it's really fantastic. It's almost... I wish that the movie had more of that feel all throughout the movie, as opposed to them trying to throw in some camp and some action. It would have been really, really nice. So, like I said, I know there's a lot of people. There are a lot of people who are trashing the film. I know it doesn't sound like I'm giving it the most positive, glowing review, but it really is one of those movies where you have to see it for yourself. I'd recommend, if you can go see it on a matinee, you know, bright and early, go see it for about $6, $5, whatever. Go for it. Just go for it. it's 2 hours that you're gonna you might see some enjoyment out of. Hopefully, I'm hoping that you will, because I mean, I liked it. I mean, I didn't like it when I was, which was really funny, because it's like the more I think about it, the more I think about it, the more I like it. But I wasn't liking it so much while I was watching it. But it was just the more that I thought about it, the more I liked it. And like I said, there was definitely things about it that I liked while I was watching it. So, but trying to think if there was anything else that I wanted to talk about with it. It was oh yeah, there's definitely some deeper cuts too. There's some not spoilers, but Easter eggs in there that was kind of nice. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to talk about, the characters, because Alice Monaghan is she's kind of a deeper cut character, because she's in some of the comic books, but not a regular character, not like Ben Damio, who is a regular of BPRD, which was another thing too, that those two characters, they never met in the comics. Hellboy and Ben, they've never met. So I think that they kind of nailed how they would have interacted pretty well. I think, as far as I'm concerned, I think they nailed it pretty well. But Alice Monaghan and Ben. So Alice, I think, is useless, and I was ready. I'm hoping that if it gets a sequel, that they move away from her. It's just, I don't know. The actress just wasn't. It just seemed like a miscast, as far as I'm concerned. But Damio was fine. CGI Jaguar is kind of cartoony. I wish they would have done a better job with that. Made it a bit more. Gosh, they should have made him bigger. For sure, they should have made him bigger. Like he should have looked like a mix between the warg from Lord of the Rings and a jaguar. That's what they really should have done. Made him just bigger and huskier, meaner. That would have looked really, really cool. But they kind of made him look like Red 13 from Final Fantasy VII. That is fine, I guess, whatever. But it's just, that's what I was thinking when I was watching it. But Ben that was really cool. So I hope he does come back. They do tease Abe Sapien near the end. They tease him. They do a tease of him. So I'm interested to see what their thoughts are for a new design for Abe, or if they kind of borrow a little bit more from the Guillermo del Toro movies. I don't know, but I'm interested in seeing that. But I would like to see. I would like to see this movie get a sequel for sure. I'd like to see this movie get a sequel for sure. Outside of that, I think I'm gonna just leave it at that. I don't want to do too much spoilery stuff, because I do want you guys. I would like for everybody to go see this movie. Like, if you've been on the fence, just go ahead and go see it. Just go ahead and go see it, and make a decision for yourself. Number one, but just letting you know that I did enjoy it. I liked it. So later, guys.